Now let's discuss managing test anxiety. Please understand that a little test anxiety is not uncommon and in fact can be motivating. Too much test anxiety, though, can be problematic. You can minimize your potential anxiety by envisioning yourself doing well and by utilizing the best practices described in this video to prepare for your tests. And also, be sure to remember our definition of academic success, and that is to perform at the level of your academic ability. Don't create unnecessary anxiety by comparing yourself to others. Do your best and don't worry about the rest. And as I said, test anxiety is not uncommon, but if that anxiety persists or affects your productivity, be sure to visit your academic success center or speak to your teacher or advisor to get the help that you need. I want to talk to you a little bit more about managing test anxiety. I know that's a very important topic because I was a student for a long time and I had a fair amount of test anxiety. And in my role as a professor for 20 years, I saw a lot of students struggle with test anxieties. So I want to help you as a Christian student develop the right perspective when it comes to managing test anxiety. I think sometimes we can feel like David and Goliath when we go into a big test that may seem intimidating to us. Have you ever said that? I feel like David going up against Goliath. Well, I used to think of David as an underdog, but I preached a sermon on David and Goliath not too long ago, and as I really dug into it, I realized that David was not an underdog. In fact, several of the commentaries I read pointed out that if we think David is an underdog, then we totally miss what the Bible is trying to teach us. So if you read about David and Goliath in the 17th chapter of 1 Samuel, you can learn a lot about his confidence. I told you that one key to managing test anxiety is to envision yourself doing well. I want to read to you what David said to Goliath in the 46th verse of 1 Samuel 17. This is a really good example of envisioning yourself doing well. This day the Lord will deliver you up into my hands. I will strike you down and remove your head from you. Talk about envisioning yourself doing well. David is confident there, but he's not arrogant, right? And there's a difference between being confident and being arrogant. But notice where David's confidence comes from. He said, "This day the Lord will deliver you." David's confidence is not in himself. His confidence is in the Lord. And that's the key. As Christians, we have the power of the Holy Spirit in us. God can give us wisdom and insight and help us do well on tests and help us handle any challenge that comes our way. So even though we're relying on God, we still must do our part. In other words, you must still study and prepare for tests as we're talking about in this video series. So remember, you may feel like David going up against Goliath when you're facing a big test, but if you think about it, David felt confident because he knew God was with him. So if you want to feel like David when you're battling a test, just feel confident and remember that God is with you too. And I've included some questions in your study guide as well as a link to a resource that can help you minimize test anxiety. The key is to envision yourself doing well because you know that God is with you and He will help you. Now let me give you some advice to follow if you fail a test or a course. Having failed tests and having had to repeat a course, I know how stressful these events can be. I got a 36 on the first test in my physical chemistry course. But I didn't give up, and by the end of the semester, I increased my grade to an A. And you probably remember how I bombed my first freshman chemistry course, but I took the course again and did well. The point is, even if you fail a test or have to repeat a course, you generally can bounce back and move on. If you do flunk a test, be sure to review your answers with your teacher and determine a plan for succeeding in the future. And I understand that talking to your teacher about your failed test can be intimidating. But I also understand that your teacher already knows your score and she wants to help you figure out what you missed. Step up and get the input that you need. As your test scores improve, you'll be glad you did. Remember that your goal is to learn the material so that you can apply it in other courses and also in the real world. Plus, you don't want to miss the material again if it shows up on your final. In addition to reviewing the tests you struggled with, be sure to reflect on your preparation process. Did you truly prepare? Did you attend class and take notes effectively? Did you discuss your questions with your teacher after class, or did you wait until the morning of the test? Going forward, be sure to adequately prepare for your test. And of course, get help for test anxiety as needed. Now let's review some key points of academic success best practices. The definition of academic success is performing at the level of your academic ability, and you do that by controlling the factors that you can control. You can't control what a teacher puts on a test, but you can use best practices to prepare for and take your test. And your teacher may be really unorganized, but you can still use best practices to take notes and organize your study materials. So it's very important to find a note-taking system that works for you, because good notes are very important since your notes often serve as a main source of your study material. And as discussed throughout this course, assess learning in terms of understanding rather than on time spent studying. In other words, study until you understand rather than studying just for a specific amount of time. And if you're not making progress, get some help from your teacher, tutor, or academic coach. Review your course material daily so you don't get behind, and be sure to make a list of questions and talk to your teacher as needed. When you take a test, be sure to write your answers legibly and specifically answer the questions. Use your critical thinking skills to justify and support your answers. Minimize your test anxiety by envisioning yourself doing well, and be very aware of your tendency to procrastinate and conquer it quickly. Finally, be sure to set up a study schedule and stick with it even when you don't feel motivated to study. I want to sincerely acknowledge the Lockman Foundation for allowing me to use the New American Standard Bible for my scriptural citations.